man.
But
Thank you so much.
But that's all right.
We need more people like you, man.
All right.
Here, man, I'll give you more money to help you out to get through the night. Here you go. There's just some more money to help you out through the night real quickly.
God bless you, man.
Thank you so much. We really need more people like you, man.
Thank you.
It really means the world to me, man.
Man, thanks a lot. You don't know what you just did for me.
Dude, man, no. Thank you so much, man. Have a great night, okay?
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. It's extremely sad to see that the people that have the most give absolutely nothing, and the people that have absolutely nothing give as much as they possibly can. I hope this inspires you to go out and help the people in need. Please share this video to spread the message, and like and comment, and also make sure to subscribe, guys. I love every single one of you guys. Peace.
So I saw that video, and it just really made me start thinking, why don't we help people like me who need help? Why is there so many people like me on the streets? You know, I couldn't help. Well, first of all, I passed your pastor on the way in. Man, what a fine-looking gentleman he was. He was all dressed in a tie and dressed up real nice. I mean, that's a great thing. But I noticed on the board out there that it says that you're supposed to blame it on the pigs, and it referenced some scripture. And I know I heard someone reading, and I thought that was pretty neat, a little girl's voice. So thank you for that. That was beautiful. But I read that story while I was out there waiting because I had lots of time, and I read it, and I don't know if you got the same thing from it that I did, so I thought I'd kind of go through it. You know, Jesus is not very far from Galilee. He just goes across the pond, if you will, and he gets off and he finds this crazy guy. You know, this guy that runs around naked, it says, and that they chain him up and he breaks free. He's just crazy. He's one of them outcasts from society, and they actually gave him a name, and depending on which version of the Bible you read, they call him Mob or Legion or just, I mean, he's just messed up, kind of like me. But Jesus, first of all, says, do you want to be healed? And the man says, yeah, I just can't figure out how to do it on my own. And so Jesus says, I can help you. And so he talks to this man, and there's this herd of pigs over there, and he says, I'll take all those demons out of you, and I won't put them into something worthless, a pig, something that was unclean. And so he puts these demons into these pigs, and they run off the cliff, and it fixes the guy. And when we see him, it says that he's seated there by the fire, and he's like in his right mind, and he's better. And so all the townspeople come, and you'd think they'd like throw a party, and they'd call him Bob or whatever his real name is, you know, but instead they asked Jesus, what are you doing? Why'd you help him? And not only that, they get mad. Now my version, the Message version, says that they not only got mad, but it tells a little bit of why they got mad. It said it was too much change too fast. That's the way my version says it, that he came in there and he changed that man too fast, and they just couldn't deal with that kind of a change. And so I don't know what you got out of that scripture. There's a lot of things you can get out. You can say that Jesus healed. You can say that Jesus is a good person. You can say that pigs are not. But what I got was the attitude of the people. The attitude of the people towards this demoniac, towards this crazy guy, towards this guy who couldn't help himself. And when he was fixed, when he was better, they were angry with Jesus. And I just can't figure that out, because the Bible that I read, over and over again, Jesus reaches out to these people. He reaches out to the Samaritan whore by the well, and he talks to her. And he reaches out to the Canaanite woman and her daughter. He reaches out to the woman who's had an issue of blood for 12 years. And he reaches out to lepers, and he calls tax collectors to his house, and he eats with them. And those are all the people that I see almost on a daily basis. If you go through all four Gospels and kind of synchronize them, you see that almost on a daily basis that we're given insight into Jesus' life. He's helping one of them. And I just don't understand, because if you read all them stories, almost without fail, in every one of those stories, there's somebody who's opposed to it. There's somebody who's angry that Jesus healed somebody. There's somebody who's mad because he poured the oil out. There's somebody who's upset because he touched the leper. There's someone who's mad because he fed the poor. And I just don't get it. And then I look at the guy on the video. I mean, he's like me, messed up. And he's the one that helps. Kind of like that woman that Jesus talks about that gave her very last penny to help. Why is it that those who can don't, and those that really can't do? Well, I've spent a little time on the street, and honestly, I think I've come to a couple conclusions that since I'm here and no one's putting money in my cup, so I might as well stay a little bit longer. Maybe I'll say something that'll get some money in my cup. But I thought I'd share a few things with you. You know, the very first thing that I noticed was that when Jesus got to the shore, that this crazy fella who must have had a name. I mean, his name must have been Bob or Steve or whatever it was. He must have had a name, but he's called Legion, mob. And what I notice is that he is separated from the rest of the people. He says he's been there a long time, running around naked. And that's the first thing, and I know this, that there's the thems and there's the us's. There's them and us. Now, us are all the people that are like us. They're the clean people. They're the sane people. Isn't that kind of funny? Sane. They're the people that look like us. They're the people that talk like us. They're the people that have a job like us. They're all the people that fit in the us category. But then there's the them. Oh, no, it's them. You see, we create categories. And if you don't belong to the us, you're a them. And if you're not in an us, we're not going to help you because we're not going to help them. Strange thing is, though, that sometimes we include people that ought to be included in the them and the us. And that's apparently okay as long as we make that distinction, you see. Because we all have people in our family that ought to be included in the thems. We all have people in our family that are messed up, that are addicts, that are going through divorce, that have issues, just like me, just like the man with all the demons. And we include them in our us. And we'll sell the farm. We'll clear out the bank account. We'll hawk everything we have. We'll give our last dime to help us, even though they ought to belong to the them. But if you're a them, I'll tell you what, if you're not one of us, if you're a them, we won't walk across the street to give them the scraps off our plate because they're them. I'll throw them away instead. So we create categories and we say, if you're not us, then you must be them. And if you're them, you're not us. And we're only going to help us and we're not going to touch them. I'm a them. That's why that guy was throwing stuff at me on the corner. He told me to get a job. I thought that was pretty interesting. He told me to get a job, and then somebody else went by and said, you're a drunk. If I give you money, you're just going to buy booze anyway or alcohol. And that's something that I've come to realize too, that if we step out of our box and we start to help them, even once, every time we help them, it comes conditionally. Comes conditionally. We say, you know, here's $1. If I give you $1, will you make yourself right? Oh, yeah, I'll take that $1 and I'll buy a house and a car and I'll clean up. Moron. I've heard church people talk about it before too. Are they a Christian? Will they become a member of the church if we help them out? Do they go to that other church? See, we set conditions. Don't you think that if I could fix myself, I would? And plus, do you think that $5 is going to somehow change my life, or even 10 or 20 or 100? Is that going to fix all the problems in my life? What I need is you in my life. And you can shovel money in my cup, and you can hand $5 off and feel good about yourself and go home. And you can make it conditional. You can say, are you going to fix yourself if I give you $5? But unless I have you in my life, I'll never get fixed. It'll never be okay unless you spend time with some of them. Yelling at them isn't going to help. I've been called an idiot more times than I can count, but I'm still an idiot because no one's taken the time to walk with me. We create categories. We make things conditional. Now, I know that most of us would be unwilling to admit it, but when I walked in, I looked at your faces. I saw the expression on your face, and some of it was surprise, and some of you laughed, and some of you looked like you were horrified. And you know, one of the things I've come to find out about is us and them is the reason that us don't want them involved is because they're afraid. They're afraid of who I am. It's like I'm some contagious disease that can never, ever be healed, and if you get too close, you're going to catch it, and you're going to become one of them instead of an us. Jesus touched the lepers. Nobody touched a leper. Literally, that's where it comes from. With a 10-foot pole, that's saying. That's literally how they would feed the lepers, with a 10-foot pole. Because you couldn't touch them. You became unclean, unceremonious. You weren't righteous anymore if you touched them. And we think that if we get too close to them, it's going to somehow rub off on us. But here's the funny part is you never have to get within a mile of them, and you still might end up them. Some of us are a paycheck away from losing our house. Some of us are one drink a night away from being an alcoholic. Some of us are one lie away from becoming divorced. It's not them that causes us to become them. It's us. And who remembers the 80s with the AIDS epidemic, when the AIDS epidemic was just everywhere in the news, and if you were alive then, you remember you couldn't get within a mile of them, and they were to be shunned and put on an island just like those lepers, and if they breathed on you or if they looked at you or they touched you, you were going to have AIDS. Came to find out that it really wasn't contagious unless it's a body fluid kind of thing. Doctors knew that right from the beginning. Research it. Right from the beginning they knew it wasn't airborne. But we were afraid. We were afraid that somehow us was going to become them. Who knows, if you give me $1 on the street, I might follow you home. I might show up on your doorstep. And God forbid if I made it into your church. Because I'm a them and I'm not an us. That was an amen, I heard it. But believe it or not, people like me, the thems, there are good people out there. There are people that are Christians, just like you. I'm one of them. I'm one of them. I'm one of them. And actually, all this reminded me of a story I read. Well, not a story, but something Jesus said. And I wanted to share that with you this morning. It's taken from the Gospel according to Matthew in the 25th chapter, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase verses 37 through 46. And this is the story of the sheep and the goats, the us and the them. The us and the them. And Jesus says, then the king will say to those on his right, that's the sheep, those are the good ones, the ones that he looks up to, that he likes, if you will. He says, enter, you who are blessed by my Father. Take what's coming to you in the kingdom. It's been easy for you since the world's foundation, and here's why. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was homeless and you gave me a room. I was shivering and you gave me clothes. I was sick and you stopped to visit. I was in prison and you came to me. And listen to this. Those sheep, those people who've done right their entire life, you think they know it. They don't. They say, wait a minute, Jesus, what are you talking about? When did we ever see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and gave you a drink? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and come to you? Then the king will say, I'm telling the solemn truth. Whenever you did one of these things to someone overlooked or ignored, that was me. Whenever you touched the lives of them, you did it to me. Then he's going to turn to the goats, the ones on his left, and he'd say, get out, worthless goats, you're good for nothing but the fires of hell. And why? Because I was hungry and you gave me no meal. I was thirsty and you gave me no drink. I was homeless and you gave me no bed. I was shivering and you gave me no clothes. Sick in prison and you never visited. And then the goats are going to say, Master, what are you talking about? We never saw you, Master. You never came to me in robes with this glorious white glow. I didn't know it was you. I never saw you. And Jesus says, whenever you fail to do one of these things to someone who is being overlooked or ignored, that was me. And you failed to do it. How many thems have you driven by this week? How many thems will you see this week? Will you stop? Will you do what you can for them with what you have? Or will you be afraid? Will you make it conditional? Or will you just not stop because it's them and it's not us? I want to change. Deep down in places that I don't even know about, that I can't admit, that are buried between the drug and alcohol addiction, that are buried between the PTSD that I suffered because I served my country. Somewhere involved in the mess of a divorce that I'm having. Somewhere in all the troubles of my life, I am a human being, a child of God, and I want to be fixed. But I can't do it alone. And as long as I'm a them and you are an us, it'll never happen. I'm going to slip back out of character for a second, and I'm going to tell you a true story. And the true story is that when I was very young, around about the age of 22 or 23, I was homeless for a period of time. Not very long, a couple weeks. I made some bad mistakes. I drank too much alcohol. I lost my job, and I ended up sleeping in my car. For days and days and days, I was wondering what I was going to do. Finally, one of us reached out and helped me. Just a little bit, just enough to get back on my feet. And then life went on. I know what it's like to be a them. Yeah, there's always mistakes involved in being a them. There's always stupidity involved, bad money management, addiction, divorce, infidelity, lying, cheating, killing, you name it. But what have you done in your life that's more or less a sin than they've done in their life? And why should we consider them a them and us and not reach out to help? I've got one final piece to close with. It's from the most gracious and loving woman that I think the world has ever heard of, in modern times anyway, and it comes from Mother Teresa. And she says, let us more and more insist on raising funds of love, of kindness, of understanding, of peace. Money will come if we first seek the kingdom of God. The rest will be given. You can give them $5, but until you give them you, it'll never change a thing. That's the word that the Lord gave me this week. If you accept it, give Him praise. Before we move into prayers, I want to encourage you to stand up, say good morning to one another. I know there's a number of people here